I was experiencing, I play professional poker, and I was experiencing moments where I would lose a hand and go on tilt. Tilt is like you playing bad
Right.
and not being present and not forgetting about the hand that just happened before. So I think with work, it was like overall presence, energy level, not allowing the other people at the table, the other people in the casino to become energy vampires and zap my energy. Um, and just overall, overall happiness level of going to a casino, which is a low energy environment.
Right. All of a sudden, this interview got a lot more interesting. If anyone listening here, think about this here. Most people that I work with me because they realize there's some source in their life that is creating a lot of an emotional roller coaster, right? They're just not feeling good. Their energy's low. Their emotional states are all over the place. And they're just not enjoying, that day by day. So here I am talking to you, and you're actually inviting like those kind of rushes back and forth every day, like you win, you lose, you win, you lose. So you are in real time are actually trying to develop a mechanism so that you can handle those emotions better, the swings, the highs and the lows. That's what's really interesting, because most people I work with, they're not inviting this problem. Maybe they're having a situation with work, maybe in relationships, maybe their family, whatever it is. But they are having these, they're dealing, with these challenging emotions, which they are not inviting in. And here I am talking to you, and you're actually putting yourself in an environment where it's just constantly roller coaster, roller coaster. So you wanted a real-time tool where you could actually allow yourself to create a buffer where you could, when things get a little tougher, you can still maintain your energy, not get sucked in by the energy vampires or those swings. And when things are good, you just really enjoy them for what they were. That's really interesting, don't you think?
Yeah, I think professional gambling is probably the biggest roller coaster swing from not only your emotions, but from a chemical standpoint. So if you're able to master your internal flow, you have a big advantage over people, and you become more aware of other people's mood swings. And you look at them, you're like, wow, he's really on a roller coaster ride, when you're staying pretty stable inside.
Awesome. So like maybe like, is there an example? If you can't think of one, that's okay. But is there an example of like maybe a situation that happened before you and I start working together, where you're like, okay, man, I can't. This is fucking. I'm getting a little fed up here. Like maybe like one hand or a day where you're like, you know what, I'm just fucking fed up, and I need to do something about this. Was there one day that really was that trigger point where you're like, okay, enough?
Well, I could give two different examples of two different situations so we'll talk about a hand. So
Okay.
just general, losing a poker hand, and if it's a big pot, or like maybe somebody you don't want to lose to, or somebody you don't like, or
Right.
make a remark after, you would feel like kind of like a burn in your chest, or like somebody take the wind of you, or like you would get hot or something like that, or you maybe feel a little agitated. And I've noticed a big difference in that. I was just in Barcelona, and I lost a big hand. Like most people go nuts. And then I realized, I said, wow, I don't even feel anything. I didn't feel good, but I didn't feel bad. I just felt kind of neutral. And I was like,
Right.
and I was almost like thinking in my head, like, wait, you should be feeling something. And then I was like, but I'm not feeling anything. And then I just went on with the game, and I stayed composed and just played my game, and had a good result.
It's funny how you had kind of in your mind, you're like, I should be feeling something. It's almost like your mind's trying to trick you. It's like you should go on the roller coaster. Why not? But you were actually able to keep it very buffered, which actually kind of surprised you. But that was a result after the program. What was it like before the program? What was an example of like, just like, fuck you, and you go on tilt, and you just like kind of, what was it like before, where you're like, okay, I'm just tired of these emotions getting the better of me? What was that example? Because I think for people, they'd like to hear the example of like what it was before you did the program.
So before the program, I wasn't like a complete mess because I'm, a pretty good player, and I did yoga before the program, but you just feel that like with me, it's not like it's like a 30% rage kind of. You just feel high, you feel like a little flustered, and you're
Right.
not playing optimally after the situation. So and if it's like somebody you didn't want to lose a pot to, like I would go after them and try to show them a bluff, or just not play the game, not play a winning strategy after. And you'll talk to a million poker players and they'll say, oh yeah, I don't tilt, I don't get off my game. But that's a complete lie. Everybody's human, and it's just the human emotion, the human reaction. I was more involved in that. I don't know how to exactly explain it, but I was more emotional. After I would lose, I was 10 times more emotional than I am now.
Gotcha. So, okay, maybe this will make it very practical here. You're on a roll, right? The last thing you've been telling me, you've been doing really well.
Yeah, I've been doing pretty good.
As far as if you were to say percentage wise, how much better you're doing now, the new you. And be conservative, actually. Be conservative. Like, probably at least blah, blah, blah. Like percentage wise, how much percentage better do you think you're doing as far as actual income, as far as being able to, bottom line, make a little bit more money on the poker table? Basically, because you're this new you that's more centered.
I would say my game is 3 times better, and percentage wise, I would say I'm probably making 50% more.
50% more.
Because I'm more present. I'm not going on tilt, and I enjoy being at the table more because I understand all the different characters now, and
right.
And I don't take things as seriously anymore. It's you're playing a game, and I treat the environment as a game also.
Gotcha. So one last question on that one then. Without going to price, you know what the price was for the program. You and I both know it's not the cheapest thing in the world, but it's not the most expensive either. But let me ask you this here. Would you say in a practical, tangible way, would you say you've gotten your money back as far as how you're able to show up on the tables and the way you're gambling? As far as your efficiency with your day by day making money, do you think you got your money back?
Oh, 100%. With me, it's a little different because my mental state is correlated to my profit. So with me, I mean, I would have paid 5 times as much for the course.
Good. Okay, awesome. Hear that, everybody? 5 times. And again, it's not cheap. We're not going to pricing here, but you get your money. You get your monies back, because most people when I start working with them, they're showing up as a shell of themselves, like what you were experiencing before. And when they're able to unleash themselves and really engage and be in control of those emotions, it's like I always tell people, like the 2 most valuable resources in your life are 2 things: your emotional states and your energy. If your energy sucks, you have no fuel in the tank. And if your emotions are crazy, well, then you want to sleep in all day, or you're just not engaged. So that shell of you is not going to show up and produce the same level the version of you that you are now can. So it's like I tell people, I'm like, if you don't do this, you're kidding yourself. You're paying for it indirectly, maybe not directly, maybe you're not paying a paycheck, but you're paying by not being the version of you could be, that would be making a lot more money, a lot more engaged in life, et cetera, et cetera. I always like to get people away from the Bandaids. Anything that doesn't focus on emotional states and energy, for the most part, is a bunch of nonsense. It's like for example, any kind of concept like, oh, you just need to love yourself. What the fuck does that even mean? How do I actually put that into practice? What do I do with this concept? Like, So I'm not saying that, specifically for you, but I'm just giving you an example. What kind of other stuff did you try where you're like, okay, it's good information, but I can't really do anything with it?
All right, so I went to a couple therapists.
Okay.
One therapist said there's nothing wrong. You're perfectly fine. And another therapist, she had insightful things, but it wasn't action based. So she would say like, you need to be more present, but wouldn't give me tools how to become more present, or wouldn't give me.
Now that's good stuff. That's a classic one here. In our program, the program you did with me, do you not have real practical tools, real-time tools you can do to deeply root yourself in the present in a very real way? You have those now?
Yes, 100%.
Awesome. And that's a fucking difference. I tell people all the time, it's like everyone talks these generalities. Love yourself, be more present, be in the now, da, 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 da. How the fuck do I do that? How do I get more present? How do I ground myself? How do I do these things in a practical way? And again, they might mean well, but if you can't actually do it, because it's not what you know, it's what you can do. And that's an awesome example. Everyone loves to say these kind of generalities. You need to get more present. You're just getting distracted. Great. Help me fucking undistract myself. What the fuck do I need to do? Give me a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 step system. But now you have those systems. You have specific, and they're not hard, right? They're not complicated.
No, it's just they're not hard at all. It takes dedication, especially in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
But no, they're not. It's probably a 7th grader education level.
Right.
Can do it, and it just takes. I think what a big part of your program is. You instill discipline by doing it every day.
It's awesome. So now you have some practical things even a 7th grader can do. And I know I kind of loaded you up. And were you surprised? Were you surprised how intense the program was as far as how much content I threw at you? I mean, like I had a lot of videos I had you watch. You and I talked a lot. There was even though now the tool itself is simple, and it's very important for people to understand, it's not a complicated tool. The complexity is in the execution. I held your hand essentially and made sure you understood why we're doing what we're doing and made sure all the parts are there so you could execute. But now that you got it, it's not complicated.
Yeah, no, it's not complicated at all. I think it's like binding those thoughts to understanding that that it's real. Like a lot of people know like being present is positive. You should be present. But not most people know how to get here. Like right now I'm fully engaged in this video chat, and probably before your course, I wouldn't have even done this video chat. I would have figured out some excuse to get out of it. But I was just like before, like, I wasn't like, I'll be honest, I wasn't like this is my most favorite thing to do today. But I was like, Lance helped me out a lot, and just have fun with it. And that's what I'm doing right now.
Ryan, I'm going to miss you, my friend. That was a good answer. Good stuff, man. Okay. Let's see here. So let me add, okay, this is important for people here. Now, again, I want to make sure everyone understands. Ryan, can you just touch on this real quick? Was this fucking hard work? Did I push you? Were we on the phone a lot? I mean, was there a lot? I mean, I required a lot from you. I want everyone to hear that because I always make sure people understand this ain't no fucking magic trick. It's a serious program. You're working me like every day in the brain gym. You and I have a lot of interactions. Can you tell people this was not easy in your own words? Tell people how not easy this was and just give them an idea of the kind of commitment that was required.
Yeah, it's every day. So you got to be ready every day. You showed up 200%. You were there, if I needed to get on a phone call, you were there with the content. You were there with the instruction. It's clear. And then it just turns out to how bad do you want it? It's not physical strength. It's just mental strength. And I think that's a a big thing with the course, you start to believe like, wow, I do have mental strength. I can push a little harder. And that's what I think the progression goes, will go on for life, is because when you're having a tough time, I'll give an example. Yesterday, I'm watching NFL football and I'm obviously gambling on the game. And then
Okay.
the manager changes the TV and he's like, another customer at the bar. I've been watching the game for 2.5 hours. And the manager's like, this other guy who comes here all the time wants to watch horses. So I'm like, so my first initial reaction was be like, fuck that shit. I've been watching the game for 2 hours. But then I understood I took a step back and understood what was going on. And I understood that I probably could argue with this guy for the next 5 minutes and get him to change the horses back to the football. Mm-hmm. But then I said to myself, is it really worth it? Is that 5-minute argument where it's going to mess up my energy state or mess up my flow with my family worth it? So I just said, it's not worth it. And I just said, okay, he can watch the horses. And I just didn't think anything about it. Before I would get into probably not, I wouldn't say confrontational, but be a smart ass to the guy to get him to change it back.
Right.
And those are just little things that, most people aren't aware of, and you become more aware when you observe other people and see how other people react to these kind of situations.
All right. You inadvertently brought up, I think, a really good point here. And again, this is just for anyone listening, I want to make sure that everything's on the table. Like, I always like to be very transparent, never sugarcoat things. So we talked about how hard the program was, and it was not easy, right? But you know what the benefits are now, dude. You would have paid 5 times what you paid for it. You're feeling better. You're just enjoying a much better quality of life. But going back, even up to about week 3, you were struggling a little bit with me. Remember you and I had one not intense, but one conversation where you were like, I don't know if this is working. I don't know if this is working. You remember that, right?
Yeah.
So to maybe kind of, talk really quickly about how that was at that time. Because what I want people to understand is it was not easy. It took a few weeks. And even for the first 3 weeks, you were having victories for sure, but you were still having a hard time kind of almost like really saying, this really is fucking real. I'm really moving forward. And at the same time, I'm moving at a pace that people don't move at, but if you could maybe kind of talk about how, again, even in week 3, you still had to keep pushing, and it took a little bit to get beyond that threshold point where you're like, thank you, Lance, this worked. I think it's nice for people to know that, like, even up to week 2, 3, it was still tough. You remember that conversation you and I had? Yeah. Is there anything?
So, the first couple weeks are tough because you've been conditioned for the last 36 years to a certain way and a certain, how you view the world, how you view life. And, breaking those conditionings, I don't know if that's a word, breaking that, by the 3rd week, I was just like, this shit's not working, fuck this shit. But then you realize some of those days after, you're having little breakthroughs. And you just realize, like, wow, it might be only 1% better than I was before, but I'm still 1%. And then, maybe a week later, you're 2%. Maybe in the next week, you're 10%. But you steadily increase your capacity to get better. And I think that's the hard work is believing in yourself that it'll work, and believing in your process. To me, that was the hardest work.
But what you said is really great, though, because I always want to make sure people understand it's a process. You have to just have a little faith and stay the course. And I'll show, and I showed up and did what I had to do to keep you on track. So now after we got past that blip, which we had one, and that's okay. I have those with a lot of people where we have a moment of like, is this really working? Blah, blah, blah. It's like they've been living, people need to understand, they've been living a certain way their whole life. And all of a sudden, they're like this big cruise ship, and we're trying to change, the steering, the trajectory. Takes a little something. When you've been living a certain way for 10, 20, 30 years, it's going to take a little bit to fucking move that ship a little bit. And people have to understand that. So with you and I, around week 2 or 3, you were like, God, on the big fucking ship, is it really moving?
Yeah.
But we had a conversation where you really started recognizing, holy shit, yeah, maybe it's a little bit here. Maybe it's a little bit here, but it is moving. The ship is moving. And I can now see that, right? And so we kept pushing. Here's my question for you. Now, so many weeks later, and I want you to be conservative. Don't overdo it here. What percentage better do you think you are now? First, the version you were before we started. Now, what percentage do you think you are better?
I think I'm 2.0. So I think if I was 1.0, I'm 2.0.
So
and I think
does that mean 200%? Like double?
No, yeah, double.
Okay, that's a fucking big percentage, everyone. So in the beginning, it might have been like 1, 5, 10, but eventually you got some momentum behind you. And then it's like, holy shit, that's when you really start moving faster. And as you know, like a rocket ship taking off, right? Most of the fuel is in the takeoff. But once you get going, you're fucking going. So it took a little bit. And I always want to make sure people understand that. You've been living a certain way for 5, 10, 20, 30 years. Dude, give it a little, it's going to take a little work to really get things going. But once you get going, you'll move. And here's what's awesome, Ryan. This is just, just to reiterate here. As long as you keep doing the practice, I swear to fucking God, you'll become 3.0, 4.0. It'll be incredible. This will never stop. This wiring process, the conditioning process, you will continually because you're wiring. Because every time you do the practice, you reaffirm, then you have an experience where you're like, holy shit, this is even more real. Then you do the practice again, you reaffirm. You will continue this process. It never ends. That's what's really cool. You have a practice, a skill, a conditioning, a process that will last your entire lifetime. Remember what I told you in the very beginning. I don't hold on to people. It's a 6-week program, and that's that. Right? And as you know, I always make sure everyone's set that they know I'm always accessible for the long term, but this will continue for you. And now you got some real momentum. That's what's fucking incredible. That's even more of a reason for you to keep doing what has been laid out. Isn't that fucking cool?
That is.
I take a lot of pride in what I do. So 2 last questions. We've already talked about the gambling aspect, but how does your life changed besides the gambling? How's your life changed? What areas of your life can you see have clearly gotten a real benefit from Ryan 2.0 besides the monetary and gambling aspect? What other areas of your life have you seen clearly have benefited?
Some of the things you did in the past were just to, as you would say, put Bandaids on things and cover things up instead of kind of facing those difficult emotions and those difficult feelings and awkward situations and stuff like that.
Yeah, the easiest way to put this like this, and I always try and keep things very simple for people. It's like, if you won the fucking lottery and then someone cuts you off on the road, you don't care. Why would you care if you just won $10 million in the lottery? Doesn't matter. All of a sudden you're like, well, maybe I feel bad for them. They probably have someplace to go that they probably don't want to go to. It's like when you feel really good, then you don't resort to other things. Most people today, it's not really their fault, but most people are more concerned with money, status, excitement. They're concerned with the complete nonsense. And they're always looking for that next charge or the next fix, whether that comes from alcohol or a trip or whatever that is. They're looking for that next fix because they don't know how to create that internally. But when you know how to create it internally and you feel fucking great, well, all of a sudden you're not as likely to want alcohol, to have a drink. You're not as likely to do drugs. You're not as likely to do other things that might have a destructive component to them, potentially. When you feel great, you make different decisions. But when you feel a void and you feel lack of energy and your emotions are out of control, well, you look for a fix. And that's really what it comes down to. So you have something that's more granular, foundational now that allows you to feel good every day. and when you feel good every day, you're less likely to do those other things.
Correct. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, that's just keeping it super simple. And again, I just like the analogy. It's like you win the fucking lottery. Who cares? Like, whatever, man. Okay, so last question here. Last question, Ryan. You ready?
Yes.
Who do you say this program is designed for? Who do you think could benefit from this?
I think it could benefit anybody. I think it even could benefit people that even would say that they don't even have anything negative in their life, because it could really benefit anybody, because I think it ingrains in you discipline, mental strength, and I think it could touch on some things like from a spiritual level that people don't even know exist.
Mm-hmm.
They might not, they might say, hey, my life's great, but there's what I've learned through this process in the last probably 8 months of my life is there's always more. There's always different levels. So even if a person starts at 5.0 and they take your course, they're going to probably go to 6.0 or 7.0. And, everybody's going to start on a different level. If I said I started at 1.0 and I'm 2.0 now, version of myself, there's always, you told me about this, there's always different levels. And even guys like Tony Robbins, they're still improving every year, every day,
yep,
every 5 years. So no matter who you are or what you do, how you feel every day, there's always different levels. And it's also, from an educational standpoint, you can always learn more. So this course not only wires, good thoughts into your head, it also teaches you, like, why am I thinking that? Or why do I feel this way? Or why does traffic anger me?
Right.
Just stuff like that. So I think it could benefit literally anybody, because you don't have to be super depressed or angry at the world. You could be completely happy and it'll benefit you.
Awesome. I'm gonna reaffirm something for anyone listening, but also for you too, Ryan. There is absolutely a spiritual component, a very keen one here, and I'm gonna make it sound really simple. I'm just gonna reaffirm this for you or anyone listening. When you feel really great, when you feel really good, and you finish a practice in the morning, or you did a boost or whatever, when you feel really good, you're just much more of a vessel or receptive to ideas. All of a sudden you have this idea like, ooh, what if I tried this? What if I did that? Right? And there's a really great phrase that comes from I think it's from Dr. Joe Dispenza, where he goes, did I think this thought or did I receive this thought? When you feel great, you just find yourself much more, who knows where they come from, but you just find yourself way more receptive to just having an idea. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Watch this. Let me make it really practical. Let's just say it was thousands of years ago, right? And back in the caveman days, and you were leaving your cave, you're going to be on red alert for a fucking saber-toothed tiger or something like that, right? When you're in survival mode and you're like this, it's very hard to think about how to take your life to the next level, because you're ready for, live or die, fight or flight, right? You can't think about how to become the best Ryan 3.0, if you're like worried about who you got to fight at the casino table or whatever. But when you feel great, you can think about other things. And then that's when the magic happens. Like, all of a sudden you'll have a thought, an idea. And the question is, did I think this thought or did I receive that thought? We're not getting into that topic, but you get what I mean, right? When you're at these levels of energy because you feel great, you're going to receive things. But when you're waiting for the next danger to happen, you can't think of fucking anything to take your creativity and yourself to the next level when you're ready to live or fight or flight. Make sense?
Yeah.
So when you're living these moments, these higher levels, higher percentage of the day, that's where all of a sudden you're like, I'm just having all these great thoughts and ideas all the time because you're receptive to it. There is absolutely a spiritual component to what we're doing here in a very practical way. What you're doing is you're creating in a very practical way or increasing your percentage of your day you're spending in bliss. When you're in bliss, you are a vessel to receive things. The higher you go, the more bliss you are, you're just going to receive things. Who knows where it comes from? And you don't even need to know where it comes from. All you know is it's very fucking obvious in a practical way. When I'm feeling great, I'm just coming up with all types of ideas all throughout the day. But when I'm constantly in survival and worrying who I need to attack or confront, how the fuck am I going to think of creative things to take my life to the next level when all I'm doing is concerned about how I can fight for my survival? Doesn't that make sense?
Yeah.
There's absolutely, in a very practical way, a very spiritual component to what you're doing, what you learned with me. And every day you do this, you become the vessel.